Start trading crypto today. Sign up for our step-by-step video series to get set up with the best trading tools, start analyzing charts, enter and exit a trade properly, and most importantly, see if crypto trading is right for you. Join us at bitlabacademy.com.
Welcome to Rice TVX. You've just tuned in for the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. Today I am joined by Jason Crowe from Qortal. We're going to be learning more about this decentralized blockchain project that is building a censorship-free internet. Before we get into it, visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. You will also find my various social media links and more. You can also find Rice TVX on Odyssey and Library, where I have a full catalog of my videos, post up extra content, and share other appearances. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. I've partnered up with MY PATRIOT SUPPLY so that you can prepare for these uncertain times. Visit www.prepwithrice.com. I highly recommend MY PATRIOT SUPPLY, America's largest emergency preparedness company. Act quickly and you'll save $150 off their essential 3-month emergency food kit, which contains an abundance of delicious foods that provides more than 2,000 calories a day. This includes free shipping quickly and in unmarked boxes to your doorstep. Visit www.prepwithrice.com as an additional way to support the channel. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. All right, ladies and gentlemen, joining me on today's show is Jason Crowe. He is with Qortal. He has been on the show before, but it's been several years. So I'm going to treat this like it's our first time talking in an interview form. So Jason, I appreciate you coming on the show today. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks. Yeah, glad to be on again.
I'm looking forward to it. And again, I appreciate your time. It was December of 2019 that we had first talked, and we're recording this on April the 28th of 2022. So it's been a few years, and there's been apparently a lot of development with Qortal. Before we get into what Qortal is, do you mind kind of giving a little quick background as to who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I basically have been an IT type guy for a very long time. I was my first tech job was when I was 16 years old. I, loved technology. I always built computers, servers, networks, stuff like that. Then in 2013, at the last day job that I actually had back then, someone introduced me to Bitcoin, and it was basically over from that point. So I realized that the technology behind Bitcoin, blockchain technology, was actually a lot more than just monetary transactions, right? And so from that point, I was very interested, dug into it as deeply as I could, started learning as much as I could about blockchain technology, because I realized that technology would basically run everything in the future. And realized also that there was no platform that was really going for that, especially not back then. And so I, started by building a team. I took over the development of a project called Burst 6 months after it launched. After that, we realized that there was a flaw with that algorithm and wanted to rebuild that platform. And the community didn't go for it. So I was like, okay, fine. I'll take the development team. We'll go somewhere else. And so we went and took over the development of a project called Quora, which was the project that ultimately led us to the development of Qortal. And that's where it gets part of its name from. So the Quora that's in Qortal is actually taken from Quora and added in. So it's Quora plus portal equals Qortal, right? Because it was initially supposed to be just the trade portal. But then we have now evolved it into something that is completely amazing. It's an actual full infrastructure platform that is actually able to do all of the things that I knew blockchain could do. And this platform is the one that, I've been dreaming about building since 2013. So that's a basic rundown of who I am. There's a lot more to it, but that should give you a little bit of an idea of who I am. I've been running development teams since then, basically since 2013, 14. and building the teams to make this kind of stuff happen, and building communities. And so Qortal is a completely community developed and community run project. It is completely open source. There is no intellectual property, no ownership whatsoever. And it is literally built to run the future of the world, the infrastructure that we need. That is a complete separate infrastructure that doesn't exist in any other way, as far as what I have seen. That you were mentioning another project today, and I was like, yeah, okay. But all the other ones, I always find flaws with them, right? Like, so we built this one to actually follow the original vision of what a blockchain was supposed to be, which was able to be run on any computer. And then we added a lot more to it, added other functionality like web hosting, communications, and data storage, all kinds of other stuff that we need on a regular basis on our computers that we use on the traditional internet and so forth. Now we have a blockchain platform that can do basically everything that the traditional internet can do without any of the centralization. So that is what I have been working on since that time. And it has now finally come together, and we are very happy with where we are now. It is an absolutely amazing platform.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to catching up and finding out exactly all the different things that you have built currently, that you have running, and what you guys are planning on doing short term and then long term for the roadmap. Because since I interviewed you, a lot of things have transpired. We've seen a lot more censorship. We've seen a lot of attacks on websites, applications, things to that effect in regards to censorship. So a lot of the services that can be utilized via Qortal, I think, are very important, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get back in touch with you, find out exactly what was going on with the project and where you guys are standing, because I've read, and maybe I got this from the Twitter account. Let me see here. Yeah. 100% decentralized blockchain project for censorship-free internet. ISP, which we'll get into, peer-to-peer encrypted messaging, peer-to-peer cryptocurrency trading, and local wallets. And can you explain the web hosting aspect? And is the DApp hosting available now, the decentralized application hosting, or is that still in the works?
Yeah. So right now we do have the ability to host what I call static websites, which are basically informational type websites where you can put up, videos, pictures, data, content, stuff like that. So like the Qortal website, for example, like a website like this can be hosted on top of Qortal right now. And we actually have a demo of both hosting this website and the Qortal wiki on top of Qortal right now. So, but we do not have yet the ability to do things that have interactivity with the chain, such as allowing authentication, allowing communications between one party and the website or the application right there, right? So that is the next phase. We're calling that Q apps, where we will be able to replace things like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, video hosting platforms, blogging, social media, all that type of stuff will be able to be done on top of Qortal too. So right now, we can do websites, which is a lot more than basically any other blockchain that I've seen. You mentioned one that I guess can do the same thing, but we do it in a slightly different way. So the important part about the way that we do our data hosting, our data network is a completely custom data network, just like basically everything on Qortal was written from scratch, right? So we built this data network with intent to be scalable and to actually be able to provide the infrastructure for the future, right? So in my opinion, and this was a problem. So when we took over the development of Quora actually took and it put the data, all of the data for the web hosting that it did, and it put all of that data on the blockchain. Now, the problem with that is that how is that scalable, right? So if everyone is running a full node, right, and all of the data for every website on the internet ends up being on top of this blockchain, that means that everyone has to synchronize every bit of the data on the internet in order to have a full node. Now, does this make sense? Is this going to scale? Like, in my opinion, no, because there's no way that each person running a full node is going to be able to have, petabytes and petabytes of storage in order to host every single website on the internet, right? And so the way that we've done it on Qortal is, instead of hosting the data itself on top of the blockchain, which can work and is a possibility, but again, not scalable. We take and we hash every single file that gets published on the blockchain, and the hashes of those files get put into another file. And so we have a list of hashes in a file. Then we take and we hash that file, and we put that one single hash on the blockchain. Now, that still allows the blockchain to secure the data and make it so the data is unable to be changed by anyone other than the person who owns the name, which is the registered name. You can think of it like a namespace, basically a domain, right, on top of Qortal. So you register a name on Qortal. You own that name. Then you can publish a website on that name. And instead of having all of the data on the chain, we have just one single hash file. That one single hash file then verifies all of that data without needing all of the data to actually be on top of the blockchain, which allows the blockchain to only have one tiny file, which allows it to be scalable. And we also trim our blockchain as we go. So right now, the full node database is roughly 20 gigabytes, and it stays roughly 20 gigabytes as time goes on because it keeps itself within that range, right? So we have a lot of cool stuff to allow people to run a full node on a very minimal amount of hardware and actually allow it to be able to keep running on that hardware. So for example, this device here is called the Cortector. My company sells this device, but it's also completely open source. We have no intellectual property. You can build one of these yourself. We'll even give you the 3D printer file to print the case if you want. But basically, this is built from a Raspberry Pi 4. The entirety of the Qortal network can run on this device, right? And we include ours with a 500 gig SSD. It ends up looking like this, where it's got the SSD at the bottom. And this device can run everything from minting, which is how the blockchain is powered, to web hosting, to everything else that's possible on Qortal. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it'll be able to do that as Qortal grows, as the network grows. It'll still be able to maintain it on a Raspberry Pi for the entirety of what you guys are creating.
Yes.
Or have created.
Yes. So in the future, we may get to a point where if we allow things like a distributed LAMP, which would be an actual web server with its own database and so forth, that can be hosted on top of Qortal. If we get to something like that and it requires more processing power to run those types of things, then potentially not, right? But every base level function that we have right now, the web hosting, all of the stuff that goes along with the trade portal, all of the minting, everything else that exists right now can be run on a Raspberry Pi 4. And I think that's going to be able to continue for the foreseeable future. But when we get to other things like, if we can host actual servers that are secured by the blockchain, people will have, specific hardware for those types of things. You choose which data you host on each node, right? So you don't have to host the entirety of every bit of data that's on the Qortal chain. So that's one of the bigger things, right? So that you choose, so if there's a website that has a lot of complex stuff that you don't think your hardware will be able to run correctly, then you just simply don't sync that data. You won't become a peer for it, right? So you're able to choose every single bit of the data that goes onto your node. So you just know that your node might not be able to run something that gets more complex down the line, and you just don't do it, right? But if you want to, you can try still, but ultimately we've made it so that you have flexibility. If you have weaker hardware and you know that something might take a little bit more processing power to actually run correctly, then maybe avoiding that one thing might be a good idea, right? But yeah, we're also developing more types of devices like this. Excuse me. We are having a couple new ones coming out that are going to be 6-core processors, or this one's a 4-core processor, 8 and 16 gigs of RAM, where these are 4 and 8. So we'll actually have like an actual desktop replacement type system. These ones run a full desktop and will work like that, but they're not quite as quick as, like some, laptops and stuff like that. So we're looking to actually have replacement systems like that will run everything for the, foreseeable future forever, right?
Can I share that image of that keyboard that you sent me?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the same type of idea as this one, but it's actually built into a keyboard.
Let me pull it up. I just want to make sure I wasn't sharing anything I wasn't supposed to share. I'm trying to be
respectful. Yeah, we just haven't put those up on the site quite yet. And the website to purchase these is Crowetic.com. So my name here, Crowetic.com, and that's my company's website. Me, my brother, and my partner, G, we run this company and we sell these. And again, everything that we sell is open source. So you can build one yourself, or you can buy one from us if you don't want to build it yourself. So we're just allowing people to have options. If, they have a computer, they can't quite get this stuff set up, but they still want to run it and they still want to support the network, then, buying one of these devices from us is really simple. Plug and play, you're good to go, right?
So this image is 3 separate devices: a Raspberry Pi, a keyboard, and a mouse connected together, plug and play into a monitor, and you have a computer.
So actually, this is based off the Raspberry Pi 400, and the Raspberry Pi 400 is actually built into that keyboard. So
Okay.
we just took and we built our own case there, 3D printed the case for the SSD that's on the left-hand side. That SSD is what runs the operating system and so forth. So we didn't have it run off of an SD card because, in my opinion, running an OS off an SD card does not last long enough. So we wanted to run it off of an SSD, make it run faster and longer.
So
So
that's
we
just an
added that to it.
SSD there?
Yeah, it's a 500 gig Samsung SSD
And then
that's
under the
inside of that.
keyboard, built into the keyboard, is the actual Raspberry
Yes,
Pi?
exactly. Yep. So
That's
you just
wild.
literally, so you literally just plug in the monitor, keyboard, mouse, and you're good to go. So you have a full system there, and that's it. So it actually comes with that mouse too. So you've got everything you need. You just plug it into a monitor, and you're good to go.
And you'll be able to access the internet and things to that effect.
Yeah. Yep. Everything you can do on a typical desktop. It's a Linux-based desktop. Again, it's ARM architecture. So anything that's supported on ARM architecture can be run on top of this. It comes with, word processing, Office software, stuff like that, and a web browser, obviously. And it comes pre-set up with Qortal running. So you literally don't have to install anything. Qortal Core is already running when you boot it up, and the Qortal UI is there on the desktop. You just double click it and it starts up. So it makes everything very simple. Yeah.
So a plug and play computer that's Linux based that just runs basically off this Raspberry Pi, an SSD card, the keyboard that's with the Raspberry Pi, and then the mouse. That's pretty
Yep.
wild, man.
It's pretty cool, right? Yeah.
And then the fact that you guys are offering web hosting, blockchain related for simple websites right now,
Yep.
not interactive. That's awesome because I am going to be looking for some web hosting. So I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah.
My site is definitely not as complex or isn't anything more complex than what you have for the Qortal website.
Right.
So it should be able to be functioning in that aspect. And I want to
Totally.
utilize these kind of technologies and censorship resistant technologies that, are going to help us to move forward. I
Yep.
told you earlier that, because of all this censorship, it's really changed my viewpoint on a lot of things that I wasn't taking as seriously that I should have been. But, unfortunately, this is what it took to bring things to my attention. But
Right. And that's with a lot of people, man. Like, it's not just you. Like, a lot of people this year and the year previous are like now realizing that how much control they actually have over the systems that we're using on a regular basis, right?
And another thing that I was telling you, because let's say you have a censorship resistant website, so you don't have to worry about a hosting failure.
No.
So the only point of failure I can see as a content creator or somebody who's a blogger or what has a website would be your ISP, your internet service provider. And that's something that you guys are planning on working on as well. Can you explain a little bit about how you guys are trying to become an actual internet service provider and what you're going to be doing to utilize that?
Yeah, so absolutely. So one thing too, what you just said, the ISP. So yes, that could be a problem, but it would only be an issue if you publish your website, right? If you are the only person who has viewed your website, then it would be, if your ISP goes out, your website wouldn't be accessible. However, if you and 5 other people have viewed your website, then there are 5 now copies of your website's data on QDN, which is Qortal Data Network. And so now, even if your internet connection does go out or you have issues, your node can't be accessed. That's okay, because you have, 4 other people who also have your website's data, and QDN takes care of tracking all of that. And so it'll know that those other peers exist and grab the data from them. So as long as you're not the only peer for your data, then you're fine, right? But yes, obviously, if you want to be minting and stuff like that, if your internet connection goes down, you can't continue to mint at this point. But yes, we do look to make it so that there is no need for anything centralized, right? So we want to get rid of all centralized components, right? And that includes the ISPs, because they are a gateway. They're literally a gateway provider. If you don't pay these guys, you can't have this connection right here that we're talking over, right? And so, yes, we want to remove that problem too, right? And so what we're planning on doing is what's called a mesh network. And now There are multiple other types of mesh networks that exist, but a lot of them at the moment are too low bandwidth to actually be an internet replacement, right? So we are probably looking at designing a new type of mesh network, or using potentially Wi-Fi and other types of connections to start with to build a mesh network. And now you could take a Wi-Fi signal with the right antenna and broadcast that, 15 plus miles, if you know what you're doing, right? So we will be able to start with existing technologies. The end game is to develop our own Wi-Fi or like wireless connection, right? And I want to use frequencies that do not actually cause radiation and harm and stuff like that. We want to use beneficial frequencies to create this network that will, allow the connectivity between Qortal nodes. And we won't have to be concerned about security and stuff like that, because you'll only be able to connect by running Qortal. Now, if you run Qortal, you'll be able to connect and authenticate to this network with our own communications protocol as well. So we won't have IP addresses, and you won't be able to be tracked with those IP addresses. So it'll be a network where it'll be completely anonymous as well. So this will be really, really attracting to the types who love to be anonymous. And basically, it'll allow people to have true privacy, right? Now, this is a little bit down the line. Like we need,
of course.
Yeah, we need to get the node network a little bit larger first before we'll be able to establish mesh networks that will actually, because you need to have communications within a certain distance, right? And so we need to have more people within our area before we can establish a mesh with them. And so what'll end up happening is there will be little pockets of mesh networks in different places. Then eventually those mesh networks will grow to a point where they'll be able to connect directly to each other, and we'll have different types of wireless communications. We are also looking at doing things like ham radio, satellite communications, stuff like that. We actually have a developer who's actually building a satellite for us right now. We will talk about how we're going to get that launched after it's built. But yeah, we want to be able to replace the internet completely. Now that's down the line a little bit, but we are looking to go that direction, right?
Launching a satellite, though, I may be able to connect you up with somebody who's
Really?
doing, so keep me updated when you guys are going to be doing something like that. And then after the interview, I want to mention to you a technology. I'll mention it now so people can understand what so people can research it, and then we'll talk more about it. It's called Li-Fi, light fidelity. Are you
Oh, I've
familiar
heard
with
of that.
this?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and I think that is so wild, using LED lights with binary code to create an internet,
Right.
and it would be faster than the internet that we utilize now. When we don't have access to any light, it would go away. From my understanding, you wouldn't be able to hack into these systems. Being that
I've only heard of it. I haven't dug into it yet, but it is very interesting. Yeah.
So there's some TED Talks if you want to check it out. I'll send you
Right.
links. It's a guy from, I think, Sweden. His name is Harold Haas, and he did two TED Talks, and one he's actually utilizing the technology.
What is the range?
Well, the idea, so in technical terms, Li-Fi, I'm on the Wikipedia page. Li-Fi is light communication system that's capable of transmitting data at high speeds over the visible light, ultraviolet, and infrared spectrums. In its present state, only LED lights can be used for the transmission of data in visible light. In use is similar to Wi-Fi. Key technical differences being Wi-Fi uses radio frequency to induce a voltage in an antenna to transmit data, whereas Li-Fi uses a modulation of light intensity to transmit data. Theoretically transmits at the speed of 100 gigabytes per second, I think is what it's saying.
Wow, really?
The ability to safely function in areas otherwise susceptible to electromagnetic interference. So it's being developed and organized. Yeah, something you can look into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they developing in open source is the question. That's always the
probably
question, right?
not. I would imagine that they're protecting the IP.
Right. So that's going to be a problem. So we can't use it.
Yeah, and I totally, for one, I mean, I got to commend you and respect the fact that you're not looking to do IPs and things like that, and looking to keep everything free and open source. I mean, that's definitely a mentality that needs to be kept alive, and a lot of respect needs to be shown for that, because I do appreciate it. So coming back to really what Qortal is, and I don't really want to try to confuse people, because I feel like it, in my sense, I was kind of going back and forth on some stuff. what is the basic idea? If you
It
were
is
just
built to be an infrastructure platform. So to replace the existing infrastructure that we have on a digital sense, right? So anything from data to communications to money and economic system, and so it's actually like a full replacement for the system, right? And the system that we have now is what, like loosely formed laws and a bunch of nonsense. It doesn't really make any sense, right? So
right,
we have a system that actually makes sense, that's transparent, open, honest, open source, and it can actually do everything that you're going to need to do on your digital lives and to give you individual sovereignty on those digital lives. And now also we are talking with another group of people who wants to put together another side to this infrastructure, which would be food production and distribution. And so that is going to be something that we're probably going to work towards getting that project launched and tied in with Qortal to use Qortal's infrastructure on the digital side to build up that thing to allow for independent, decentralized food production and distribution. So there's going to be other pieces to the overall infrastructure, right? But Qortal is the digital infrastructure of the future. That's what we like to call it, right? So it actually does all of the things that you can do on the traditional internet, but done in a P2P and distributed fashion, right? So there's
so
no servers, no any sort of centralized anything, right?
it kind of reminds. So in a sense, it reminds me of combining the idea of what Ethereum is trying to build and the ideas of Bitcoin kind of combined all into one.
Right. Yep.
Would that be kind of a smart
And more than
contract
that
platform
too,
that can also
because
act as a currency versus just a gas?
yeah, well, we're not going to have any sort of like massive fees and stuff like that either. So we're actually trying to go as feeless as possible, which is going to be something that most blockchains can't or won't do. We already, so to publish data on the Qortal chain costs you nothing. We use a memory-based proof of work to submit a nonce instead of a transaction fee. And so with that method, we can actually do a lot of different other transactions for free too. And so that's what we're really going to go for, is a totally feeless chain in most respects. Of course, name registration has to have a fee because we don't want people to be able to register an infinite names for free, stuff like that. But certain things don't need fees, certain things do, right? Sending coin doesn't necessarily need to have a fee. Trading doesn't need to have a fee. And we are not just one single coin. We support right now Bitcoin, Litecoin, Doge, and Quart, right? And we have Litecoin and Dogecoin trading on the trade portal. So we have a completely decentralized trading platform. You can trade directly from one blockchain to another. And so we've got all of this all in one place. And so I can show you the interface if you'd like. I have this set up to be shared, and I can show
Yeah,
you what I'm talking about.
give me a moment before we do the interface
Sure.
share, because I want to try to cover a little bit more things. So we have you mentioned the trade portal. We have the Q chat.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the peer-to-peer encrypted chat?
Yes, it is. Yep.
And so that's functioning and working.
Yes, it is. And we're actually doing a lot on QChat right now. The next few things that we're going to do will actually allow it to basically replace Telegram and Discord. It'll have all of the functionality that Telegram and Discord do, but with none of the centralization and none of the ability to be censored and so forth, right?
What about having this on a smartphone like you would Telegram and Discord?
Yes. So we are in process. Actually, we have light nodes already on the development side that are able to do the QChat transactions and a few other things. But we will have full functional light nodes in the near future too. So you'll be able to have a mobile app that runs a light node that doesn't need to synchronize the chain. It just uses connected full nodes for the blockchain data. And so you'll be able to do all of this on a phone in the very near future too. Of course, iPhones are going to be a problem
Yeah,
because the iStore is so locked down. We have a developer who can get us in there, but it's really kind of anti what Qortal's about anyway, even to try. But we might try, but we'll always say, like, they're probably going to delist this at some point because once they
right.
figure out what it is, they're not going to like it, right? But yeah, we will have Android support completely with APKs you can install. To be able to do everything, QChat, trading, even minting. If you want to run a top-only node on your phone, if you have the data, the data that you can spare, you can actually run what's called a top-only node, which synchronizes the top part of the blockchain only, but does allow you to mint. So you will be able to mint on phones in the near future too. So there's a lot coming up for Qortal.
Now minting is what you guys call the distribution of coins from it's obviously not a proof of work or proof of stake algorithm. It's something completely different. So
Right. Yeah. It's basically proof of contribution over time.
Okay, so the more time that you offer to the platform, the more you're rewarded.
Yes. So you start at level 0. You get a sponsorship key from a level 5 or higher minter. So any other level 5 or higher minter can issue a sponsorship key to you. You assign that key to your node. It starts submitting signatures on behalf of your account. Once your node gets 7,200 blocks, which takes about 5 to 7 days, then you become level 1. Once you become level 1, you create and assign your own minting key. You're back on your own again. The sponsor gets nothing for sponsoring you other than the joy of adding a new minter to the network. And then you are on your own. And once you start out, you start at a level 1. Each 2 levels, you get an increase in the reward. And every block that goes by, you get another block minted. And the blocks minted are going to be used directly for the vote weight in the voting system when we get the voting system finished. Now, we have one game that people can play, and it's self-sponsorship. And so right now, we're fighting that with a couple different things. Once we get those 2 things implemented and self-sponsorship is no longer an issue, and we've handled all the previous self-sponsored accounts, then we can build the voting system, and then the legitimate minters who've been minting and not sponsoring themselves will be able to have a vote in the system that's directly correlated to how much time they've been dedicating towards running a node for the network. Now, you just have to make sure your node is running, connected, and synchronized, right? And once you've got your key assigned, you are able to sign blocks. Now, another thing that's unique about it is that there's no competition, right? In Bitcoin, you're trying to find the block, right? Everybody's trying to find the block, because if you find the block, you get the reward and all the transaction fees for that block yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they do that with a mining pool, which is another centralized component, which don't even get me started on all this. But anyways, we have removed the competition, right? So now every minter is minting cooperatively. It doesn't matter who signs the block. Every minter who's submitting a minting signature gets rewarded. So you can think of it as a completely distributed mining pool. The entire network is a distributed mining pool, but without the need for hashing continually either, right? So you just have a node on the network. This node is able to sign blocks. You get more likely to sign a block as you level up, so that's for security of the chain, right? But that's it, right? You're not competing with anybody. You're working collaboratively with the network, and you guys all get rewarded every single block that goes by. So you don't have to worry about, I'm not going to get rewarded if I don't find blocks, or if I'm mining solo, all that stuff that comes along with mining, right? All that's completely out the window. We believe this is a much better system, and it actually allows for anyone utilizing any computer, Windows, Mac, Linux, BSD, whatever operating system you want, or of course a Raspberry Pi if you want to, and to run on this network. And just, that's it, man. It's just really
one word kind of sums it up for me, and that's fair.
Right.
It's like a very fair blockchain that doesn't favor any one particular individual node or anything above another.
And what's really cool is that we've decoupled money and power. You cannot buy any sort of influence. You cannot buy bigger rewards like you can with mining, right? If you're mining, you buy more hardware, you have more of a likelihood of finding the block and more of a likelihood of getting rewarded for that, right? You cannot do that on Qortal. Doesn't matter. You can have 5 nodes running the same key, makes no difference. You're just minting one block as one block goes by. So there's no way to buy influence. So that's really cool, right? It allows a truly fair system. Yes, exactly.
That's beautiful. And so the next thing I want to talk about is the trade portal.
Yeah.
So, and this is up and running.
Yep.
Limited pairs though, right?
Bitcoin or Litecoin and Dogecoin are the 2 trade pairs.
Okay. And obviously there are plans to add more.
Yes. Actually, in the very near future, we have almost finished support for ARRR, which is our pirate chain. Yes. So pirate chain will be supported here soon. Ravencoin will be supported here soon, and Digibyte will be supported here soon. Now, we chose these specific coins because they were launched in a fair fashion, and well, as fair as you can be with proof of work, in my opinion. But yeah, so we chose coins that did not have an ICO, that were not proof of stake, that were not any sort of like thing that I consider not, but ultimately it won't be up to me in the future, right? And this was all a community decision with these coins that we decided, but right now the development team has a little bit more say in things because it's a little smaller. But once it grows, we have the voting system. The community will be able to vote as far as which things we do and which coins get supported next, right? So this was all discussed with the community. Pirate Chain was one of the main ones that The community really want it because
huge community.
Yeah, it's an anon coin, got a massive community. I have, a lot of friends there too. So it's going to be really cool to have an anon coin supported.
Oh, I like that. So now with the cross-chain trading, the way that I'm understanding that this would work, because I've used Komodo, which did some cross-chain trading, and
Right.
the way that I understand it is I would hold a coin in my wallet with my private key. There's another individual on the other side of the trade that has their own wallet with their own private key, and you make an agreement via a smart contract, which swaps the different currencies to go for cryptocurrencies to go from one blockchain to another blockchain.
Exactly.
Is that exactly how you guys are utilizing it?
Yes.
So
So we have
peer-to-peer trading.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we're doing a real cross-chain trade using what we call automated transactions, which was created by the Siam developers. It's a complex language. It's a low-level hardware level language that actually runs as a virtual CPU on top of the blockchain. And it does simple things like you can do automated payments with it. You can do things like crowdfunding with it. You can do things like lots of cool stuff, right? So we use what's called the atomic cross-chain trade smart contract to do these cross-chain trades. So it literally locks the funds in the AT on the sell side, and the buyer comes along and it does a P2SH, which locks funds on the other chain, and then it swaps them, right? So there's it's a direct cross-chain trade. And so you do have to await the confirmations on the other chain in order for the trade to take place. So it takes about 7 minutes on average for a Litecoin trade to take place. About the same with Doge, a little bit faster because Doge is a little faster chain. Ravencoin will be the fastest one, I think, because it is 60 seconds, and so is Qortal, right?
Okay.
So that'll be about a 3-minute trade. So that'll be really cool. And so you can put up,
they come into play.
so you'll be able to, and Qort will be the base pair for all these markets, right? So that gives Qort more value too. And it'll allow people to go like from Raven to Qort and then to some other coin. And in the future, we'll have no transaction fees on the Qort side. So you'll be able to go from Raven to Qort to another coin with no fees on the Qort side, only the fees that are involved to create the transactions on the other two chains, right?
Wow, that's cool. I like that. I mean, I like the fact that it's like taking it's keeping with that original cypherpunk mentality, which I think needs to be reignited because there's been this hijack of crypto by Legacy Finance 1.0, trying to stay relevant, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I get really annoyed hearing about, oh, this is a new project. Oh, was it an ICO? Yes, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it.
So we touched on the data storage and the web. Did we touch on a data storage?
The data storage is basically tied into the web hosting right now. We will have private data in the very near future. We're going to do it in basically the similar fashion. Excuse me, sorry.
You're good.
To the way that the websites are working right now. So you'll be able to put up private data. Then others will have to choose to be a peer for that data. So in the future, we want to have the data market where you'll be able to choose how many peers you want for your data and pay other nodes on the network to do that for you. But we are going to launch private data without that first, just because it's easier and we want to have the private data support. So we're going to launch that in the same fashion as the websites are right now, which is public data, right? So we'll do private data in the same way that we're doing public data right now and have people be able to choose to be peers for that data for you. So you'll have to talk to people if you want to have peers right now in the beginning. But then we'll have the data market and you'll be able to buy peers for your data and decide how many redundant copies of your data you want, and you can put private data up too. So yeah, we don't quite have the private data yet, but that's going to be coming in the next couple releases. So that's really soon.
With the domains, the names, are they gonna be a traditional internet where it has like a dot something like rice.qortal or something to that effect?
You can do that, but it can literally be anything, any string of digits. It has to be 3 digits or more. It can even be an emoji. People have registered an emoji because that's more than 3 digits, right? On the base level, when you convert an emoji,
so you go into
text.
the Qortal application, type in that emoji, and it'll pull up that website.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah, right. So you can do anything. You can do numbers, symbols, letters, whatever you want. So you can do rice dot whatever if you want, or you can do just rice or whatever you want, right?
Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so let me look at my notes. We've covered the Q chat, the web hosting, the DApp hosting, which is coming up, the names, cross-chain trades, cross-chain trades, and then we talked a little bit about the core. You call it a cortector, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I guess what would be a good point would be to go ahead and do a screen share with your stuff
Yeah.
so
Sure.
that we can go ahead and what exactly were you going to do a walkthrough of how to set up an
Yeah,
account for
so
the
I just
first
wanted to
time?
show people because Qortal is a completely custom platform now, but it has two pieces to it. It has the Qortal core, which is the one that's always running in the background, and that like synchronizes the blockchain for you and allows communication to the network. And then this here, the Qortal UI, which is literally just the user interface. This is what you interact with in order to submit transactions and so forth. Now, of course, you can use the API if you're a developer or whatever. You want to build something that works with Qortal's API, you can do that too. But most people are going to be wanting to use the UI because it's simpler, right?
Can this be run on a Windows or Mac?
Yeah, so this actually is running on Windows. So I'm on a Windows computer right now, and this is actually installed on my Windows computer. So yeah, it can run on Windows, Mac, Linux, anything, because
Okay.
the core is written in Java, and Java is natively cross-platform. So I've actually run a full node on my phone already. You can literally run it on any device, and that's what makes the way it was written really cool. So yeah, this is the Qortal UI, and to create an account, I just wanted to show people. So once you get this set up, and if it's on Windows, it's literally just two installers. You go next, next, next through two installers, then you have two applications on your computer, Qortal and Qortal UI. Qortal you run, and it runs in the background all the time. You want to keep that running because it's communicating to the chain. Qortal UI you run when you want to access things or create your account or use your account, right? So I wanted to show the account creation process since this is very simple. You literally just click create account. You click next. This name here is a display name for you, for your purposes only. Then you type your password. Now, this is just an encryption password. This is local. It's not going to the internet. Everything on Qortal is only communicating to your own computer, which has the Qortal core running, right? So you don't need to worry about having like internet type security with your passwords. You can literally create a simple password that you will remember, right? So that's going to be important because this actually encrypts the next stage here, which is the backup file. Now, this you see pop up here. This is downloading the backup file. You'll just go ahead and click save on that. And the default location for that is downloads. So if you're on a Mac, it'll be in your downloads. If you're on Linux, it'll be in your downloads. Windows, it'll be in your downloads. You can, of course, choose to save that in another location if you want. We also recommend that you back up that file in multiple locations. Like, so if you have a flash drive or an external hard drive, copy this file in multiple places because that is the only way that you can access your account, right? So you want to make sure that you keep track of that account. We cannot do password recoveries or account recoveries for you. This is a completely decentralized platform, right? So once you've done that, you go ahead and click continue, and you are now into Qortal. Now, I had it open to the websites plugin earlier, so when I logged out, it logged back into that. But so this is the wallets plugin. So as you can see, you have Qort, which is the main coin of Qortal. Then you have Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Dogecoin. So you have, these are all local wallets. These are all created from that same backup file. So you can take that same backup file and log into any other computer running Qortal, and you'll get the same exact wallets on every single wallet here. So you don't have to worry about, backing up multiple different wallets. You literally just back up this one file and it backs up all these wallets for you. So that's really unique and cool about this is that you can have, all of these wallets. And when we support Raven and Pirate Chain and Digibyte, all of these wallets will just be listed here. So you'll have local wallets for all of these coins. Now, the trade portal is the trading platform. So you have up here the selection for the trade pairs. So the default one is LTC. And then, of course, there's the Doge trade pair. And you can see over here, this is the open sells. So these are people looking to sell Qort. This is the price for each Qort, the total amount of Qort they're selling, and then the total in Litecoin that you will pay for this. So once you have Litecoin in your wallet, you literally can just click this order and click buy, and the rest of it is automated for you.
Now, can someone mint their own tokens on Qortal, like an ERC20 token? And if so, can they be traded through the trade portal?
Okay, so we have that disabled right now, that functionality, because in the past, I have seen too many platforms that have allowed assets to be created and then ended up with 90% scam assets, right? So we will eventually allow that. And we have a platform that I was talking about with you about the food. And those guys do want to launch their own coin on Qortal's chain. And now the ideas that we have for that is a new way to launch assets. And so we're creating this new way to launch assets. And once we have that, then we could potentially open the door for assets to be created. Now, it's also going to need to pass the community, right? So it'll need to be presented to the community. The community will then vote on whether they want this asset to be a thing or not. And then the asset will get created and launched on the chain. And it'll be launched in a new way where it's not just anybody can willy-nilly go and create an asset and then they control the entirety of that asset and then they have to distribute it out themselves. For one, that's against regulatory nonsense and you're going to have problems if you do that. And for two, it ends up with scam after scam after scam after scam. And so we don't want our community to be hit with scam after scam after scam, right?
Good point.
So yeah. So we will have that functionality, and yes, you will be able to trade it. There will be an asset trading platform. So it'll first start with, you'll be able to trade directly with Qort. And now that's the base pair for the rest of the markets on the trade portal too. So once you get into Qort, you can trade into anything else. And eventually we will have the ability to do any other supported asset trading directly on the trade portal with other coins too. But we don't want to like overwhelm the developers by, right now having them do all of this at once. So we're going to do it in phases. At first, you'll be able to trade the asset for Qort, which is what all these other coins are traded for anyways, and making it the base pair makes sense because it's the cheapest one to trade with anyways, and it's fast. So for cross-chain trades, it makes a lot of sense. And then eventually we will have the ability to, support more assets and have those assets also be able to cross-chain trade with other coins too. The other supported coins. Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting me pop in and interject with a question because I may have questions as I'm seeing things, and I was curious about them, whether or not there was a coin creation or not, because I hadn't seen anything.
Yeah, not yet. We will have that option, but we want to do it in a way that doesn't lead to 90% scams. That's what we're really concerned about here, because it has literally happened too many times. I've seen it too many times, and I do not want that to be, perpetuated on top of Qortal.
So now by downloading Qortal, this application that you have here, you'd be able to have full functionality of everything that Qortal has to offer currently, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll let you go ahead and finish the tour.
Yeah. So okay. So reward share, this is how you create your minting keys. So once you become a level 1 minter, you go in here and you create your minting key with this. Name registration. This is how you actually register a name. And so your icon up there is above the register name button, but that's fine. So you come in here and you type whatever name you want. So yeah, you click register name. Once you have 5 Qort, and actually this fee is getting reduced on the next version of the Qortal core. So it'll actually go down to 1.25, which was the community voted that. Actually, I think that might have changed and he just didn't change it in the UI. So I'm going to have to double check that. But I think the fee right now should be 1.25. So once you have 1.25 Qort, you can come in here, type whatever you want. So numbers, symbols, letters, whatever. You click register, and it'll try to register it. If it's successful, it'll say registration successful. If not, then it will tell you that the name is already registered. If the name is already registered, then you can't register it twice. It's literally unique names only, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't muted. Sorry. I was looking at the screen here with version 3.2.4. Is everything in 3.2.4 complete? Because that does. Okay, it does list.
Yeah, so I think he just didn't change the static fee mention there on the. So I need to get the developer to make that change. But
cool. Well, so if we're releasing this on Monday, which is I think May 2nd,
it might be done by then.
Hopefully, by the time somebody want to download it, we should see some correction or sometime very, very soon.
Right. Our development team is absolutely amazing, and they have done so much of this stuff in a very short period of time. Like. I believe it. Yeah, we have been, if you look at our GitHub, we have an extremely active GitHub with like tons of stuff.
Speaking of that, this was one of my questions. I mean, looking at some of the verbiage from the website, the blockchain, Qortal, the code, aside from, is it built from scratch? Is it a code fork? Okay.
Yeah. So we started with Quora, but we basically rewrote the entirety of Quora. So I call it from scratch.
Like a Bitcoin.
No, it's not a Bitcoin clone. We started with the Qortal Project, which was a custom project to start with. Then we rewrote the database engine, networking engine, everything. So like it's basically completely from scratch now. There's a few things that are left from Quora, but they're only transaction types and stuff like that. So it's completely custom. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so the website's plugin, Now, this is where you can view the websites that are published on top of Qortal, or QDN, which is Qortal Data Network, right? And I'll show you mine. So right now, the searching that we have here only is able to be searched by name. But as you can see, there are now tags, metadata, right? So you'll be able to publish with metadata, and in the future, we'll have a Q app that functions as a search engine. So you'll be able to search by those tags and so forth. But for now, I'll show you my website that's on top of QDN. So when you click this, what happens is it pulls the data from QDN. Once it has all that data, it decrypts it because the data is encrypted and chunked. It decrypts it, it builds it, and then shows it to you. Once you have decrypted it, built it, then you can see it once it actually finishes building here. And
That's
then you're
I like that. I like that really cool graphic behind it.
Yeah, it's cool, right? The loading screen is pretty cool.
Like
I haven't actually built this site on this computer yet, so it takes a minute. But
okay.
So yeah, when you pull all the data, then it builds the data, then it will display you the data. Then once you've done this one time, it loads much more quickly after that. If it's going to do it, that would be great. Usually doesn't take this long. I don't know what's going on with my node.
No, it's all right.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, this is, as you can see, it just looks like a typical website, right? So I've got links up here. I actually have music that I made a long time ago that you can actually listen to. I actually have a demo of a video that someone did for Qortal that you can actually watch inside of QDN, right? All of this data is actually hosted on top of QDN. So there's no server involved. There's no any sort of centralization, no domain, nothing, right? So, and you can see up here, so this is our Qortal Protocol for the website that you were asking me before. So you can just do Qortal / website, right? So that's how you would access it if you're not using the Qortal UI, which we will have like browser plugins in the future where you'll be able to just use a browser and browse stuff on top of QDN.
So like a Chrome browser.
Yeah, right.
Or okay, cool. That was one of my questions.
Yeah, so that's the one thing that people always ask, right? Like, can we browse this without using the UI? Now, yes, you can, but not right now. We will have a browser plugin where you'll be able to just, run that plugin and it'll do the authentication for you. And then you'll be able to access data on top of QDN. Data management is just where you can go in to remove data or block data that you don't want on your node. So if you go and you view a website and you go, man, I really don't want this data. Oh, what is pirate anyway? Like, you can come in here and you can block this data. If you block it, then that data will never touch your node again, right? Or you can come in here and delete the data and just get rid of it temporarily. Then if you access it again, it'll be downloaded again, right?
Okay.
So this is how you manage the data that's on your node. You have full control over every bit of data that's on your node.
And you would be able to access your Raspberry Pi in that aspect.
Yeah, well, anything that you're running your node on, right? So
Okay,
you can actually point the UI to another node. If you have like a node running on your Pi and you want to just use the UI on this computer and access the node on the other one, you can do that.
Okay.
This is Qchat. So Qchat, you can come up here, you can send a private message to any name or address, or you can go into the general chat, which is actually a worldwide global chat that anybody can come into and talk in. And you can, even without any court, so this account has 0 court. I can come in and say, hello, doing a demo. And now, if you're sending with 0 court in your wallet, it does do a memory proof of work to prevent people from spamming the network, right? So if you have 0 court in your wallet, it'll take a little bit longer for that message to send, but you can send with 0 court in your wallet. And we also decreased that a little bit because it was taking a little too long before to actually send the messages. So we had that decreased. It still needs to be relatively high until you get court in your wallet. Then it'll go a lot more quickly. But see, you can see the message is sent. So it comes from the address because this account doesn't have a registered name. But you can, message worldwide instantly on this. And we are adding a lot more functionality to this in the near future. The ability to send pictures, videos, all kinds of stuff using QDN.
Is it if you have Qort in your wallet, will it use Qort as a transaction fee to send the messages or pictures?
It's free.
Okay, you just gotta have the Qort.
No, you don't. I just sent this message. I have 0
right.
Qort
What I'm
in
saying,
wallet.
if you don't want to have that delay.
Yeah, right. If you don't want the delay, you just have to hold Qort in your wallet. Yeah. If
So
you have even 0.01, Yeah.
It doesn't charge you a thing.
No.
You just got to hold the court. Okay.
Right. It's just to prevent new accounts from coming in and being able to spam.
Yeah,
right?
no, that's a good feature.
Yeah. So it's spam prevention. That's all. And then we have group management. So this is another thing that the Qortal chain has that I don't think any other blockchain has. The ability to create groups on top of the chain. And now these groups are going to be used for a lot of cool things in the future. In fact, the asset issuance method that I would like to create relies heavily on the groups. So these are the public groups. So it shows you here, and this is a new feature showing the members of the group. We didn't have that until this version. But so it shows you the group name, and you can actually come in here and join any group you want. Now, joining a group does have a 0.01 transaction fee. Sorry. God, I don't know why I did not start coughing until I actually got on this video.
No, and I can attest for that.
Yeah.
And have you ran out of your water?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like, it hasn't been helping. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
But anyways,
then this it's that time of year for allergies, man.
I know. I guess I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, so this is so group management allows you to create groups. Creating a group does have a transaction fee, and joining a group does have a transaction fee at this point.
Just creating and joining.
Right. Yeah. Once you join, then you can also have a group chat in Q chat. So with your group that you're joined, it'll show up here. So you'll be able to chat with that group in Q chat without like having a totally public chat here. That's a general chat. You can have, group chats too, which is something that, Telegram and so forth has.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the puzzles plugin is just a little fun game where you can come in here and solve a puzzle for a reward in court. And it was something that developers built just for fun. So that's just a little fun game plugin that we have. Node management is where you go.
Go back to that last screen real quick, because I'm imagining, because talking to you, and I remember the first time I talked to you, it was a lot of the information that you had shared really went over top of my head. I mean, you're in IT, very tech, very analytical, I can tell. And so with this is like, and don't take it the wrong way, but like a nerd game.
Yeah, nerd games. Yeah, totally.
So like just your average everyday person who doesn't know anything about coding is not going to go and
they can. Yeah, like so it's literally has a description and a clue, or it'll show the answer here. I don't think there's one that's not solved right now. So there's not one where you can actually guess, but when there's one you can guess, it comes up over here with a guess. And you can guess the answer, right? And then
I was just curious. I had to ask.
Yeah, it's just puzzles. I don't even actually do any of these. None of these I've actually done. So, yeah, I don't really go into the puzzles plugin all that much. But it's just a little fun game where you can answer these questions and get a reward in court.
Cool.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lottery here soon too.
And like I said, I appreciate you letting me kind of stop and ask questions as we're going.
Yeah.
So what was the last one? The last tab?
Node management just shows you your minting accounts, and it shows you the peers that are connected to your node. Now, obviously, I have a lot more peers than most people will, because my node is like one of the core nodes that has, I make a lot of peers available because I have a 32 core machine that I just run this on. So, but you won't have nearly this many peers connected, but it just shows you your peers. It can you can remove peers or force sync to a certain peer if you want to. Those things really aren't necessary. It just shows you basically your node information, and it's also where you come in to add a minting account to your node. So if you click here, you can add one of your minting keys, and it'll show up here. So yeah,
very cool, man. Well, I definitely want to get you back on. I need to let all of this kind of resonate, do a little bit more research on everything, and interact with some of the hardware and interact with the application, and then kind of come back with some questions.
Yeah, totally.
I'm really intrigued. And like I was saying, like it's convenient where my web hosting was actually due the beginning of this month. I haven't paid it because I'm waiting to figure out what I want to do, because I don't want to commit a year with this company if I can help it, and if I can figure out ways to host. Well, I don't have to now I've got you and Qortal, so
yeah, you can definitely do it.
Yeah, so I want to utilize this so I can show people the power. One other thing I guess I would ask, and I think you might have mentioned it, but without a plugin, is there a web address that could be put in that people could look at through like Chrome?
You can. So you'd have to set up a proxy though. So you'd have to set up a node running Qortal and set that up as a proxy. And then you could, and we have that functionality. So you can set that up in the settings in your node, and then you can have it on a typical domain, but you'd still have to have a server on a domain essentially. So if you're
Right.
if you're accessing it decentralized, the best way to do it is inside the Qortal UI at this point.
Well, that's what I was meaning, was not necessarily a .com or a vault domain, but is there a domain that's used directly through Qortal that can be accessed?
We
Some
don't
weird string
have.
of digits.
Yeah, we could set up what's called a what is it called? Relay? No, gateway. No, it's a gateway mode node where we could set it up to host like all of the websites that are hosted on top of Qortal and allow anybody to access through it. But I don't have one of those running right now because I don't like anything that's centralized, right? So, but yeah, that's definitely possible, and someone could set that up.
You're running Windows on a computer. That
I
kind
know.
of surprised me that you
Yeah,
even have a
I'm
Windows-based
actually
computer.
I'm actually formatting this. The only reason I did and I kept it is so I could do like videos and demos and stuff, walking people through how to set up things on Windows. But I'm actually formatting this and installing Linux on it this weekend.
Because you seem like that type of guy that just doesn't want to use Windows.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah,
I kind of figured as much. All right, cool, man. Well, I'm going to have links for everything that we screen shared, except for the application, which you have to download yourself. But the Qortal website, which is qortal.org, if you click on join a network, it'll take you to the download screen, so you can download the application platform for Windows and for iOS. Follow the instructions. We'll also include the most recent blog about the Qortal 3.0 and all the new things that have launched with version 3.2.4. And I'll share the Twitter account for Qortal, and also share the Crowetic Twitter account as well. Even though you're not very active on these centralized
no, I'm not.
platforms, I'll still share it regardless.
And yeah, the downloads page is misleading there. It shows those images that were supposed to be like right there, Windows and iOS. That's not supposed to be there. And we're going to remove that. It's actually Windows, Mac, Raspberry Pi, and Linux that are all
Okay.
available there on the download.
Yeah, I
So
just
that is
refreshed it to see if it
misleading.
was
Yeah.
something on my end.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's that needs to be fixed on the site. That's like a little issue there.
Yeah, well, I didn't think anything of it. And maybe most people wouldn't have. So,
Right.
but of course you would, and I appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
for one, dude, I really thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. I definitely, like I said, I want to revisit. I want to talk more privately, get more involved, and kind of go from there.
Yeah,
Before we
absolutely.
do wrap up things, do you have anything that we didn't talk about you want to add, or any final thoughts?
No, I'm annoyed that I'm coughing, and I actually have to go grab my son from school here shortly. So I think ending is good. I mean, there's a lot for people to digest with already what we talked about, and
Yeah.
just get into our community, right? If you want, you can ask us all the questions that you want in our community in Telegram and Discord, or just get into Q Chat if you can set this up yourself and ask us questions there, right?
Sweet. And again, everything
Yeah.
will be linked down below. Bear with me 1 second while I finish up the recording, and
Sure.
we'll talk real quick. I know you got to pick your son up, and again, I appreciate your time. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, I'll have links for everything that we shared on today's video. If this is your first time watching any of my content, be sure to check out and explore my channel. I'd encourage you to be subscribed, and I'll leave you with this: be blessed, be the change, practice change.